Hello, my name is Nat, and today will be my third and last presentation for CS490. My topic today is just teaching everyone how to code in C++, a very simple program that initializes how integers work, how structures work, and how functions work. So far in my series of presentations, I've been talking about how coding is kind of like cooking and how data structures are used in coding. So today I'll combine all those ideas into this one presentation. So first off, to code in C++ or any other language, you're going to need access to a compiler. So compilers can be very tricky, but in my opinion, when you first learn how to code, you should just use an online compiler because it's instant access. You just Google the internet and there'll be many compilers and you can code right away. So the compiler I'm using is onlinegdb.com backspace online C++ compiler. Alright, so let's start coding. So when you first look at this compiler, it has an IO stream using namespace std. So these are pretty much declarations on it gives you access to the compiler, tells the computer that you could be using some type of library built in the compiler. And this is pretty standard in all coding. And then you're gonna have a main program in it, which is also always declared int main. So let's look at what's in our main program. So we see the letters or the word cout. Cout is pretty much an output, which is telling the compiler that we want to see an output of whatever. For this instance, is cout, and then when you see quotations, it's going to mean sentence, or we call it strings. So it's going to see out hello world. And this return statement is, it just knows this at the end. We really don't need this. I'm going to remove that. So let's run this. And then if you see at your terminal, which is this at the bottom, it'll say hello world. Alright. So, like I talked about, so compilers, you can use numbers, characters such as A, B, C, D, E, or you can also use sentence like hello world. So I type this in and let me try to run it. So if you notice, I'm having a lot of errors. It won't run my program. That's because you're gonna need to tell the compiler if you want to use this, you're gonna have storage for these units. So let's say for the number 5. To do this, you would have to use this. You have to type int and let's give and then a random name for it. So let's call it 5. So what I did was I used a storage data structure called int, which stands for integer, and I gave it the name of 5. It could be anything you choose, like hi. And I put and then this is the data of number 5. So pretty much I put the data number 5 into my integer name hi, and then that would work. And then we can also test it and see what's inside it if I'm using cout, and we'll just type the word hi right here. Let's see what happens. And it does work. You see 5 hello world. And then if you want to make it more organized, you can also do this. And in your quotation marks, you can just put this. Oops. Or you want to do it like this. You see how the next line skipped it? So that matters because you want to do it like this. So when you program, you're going to have a bunch of little mistakes when you first learn, and when you get better, you'll probably still make a lot of mistakes as well. Okay, so we got that to work, and it's the same idea with the chars. Like I said, characters like A, B, C. We call it chars. Let's give our char a name. We'll call it alpha, and we'll give it the letter B. And this will pretty much work as well. And have an error. So the thing about chars and strings is different from numbers. You have to put it in quotation marks. Single quotation marks for chars. And make sure you call the right names for your data structures. And then there you go. So some minor errors, but it's all fixable once you re-look at your code. So this is real life scenarios. And then one more thing, strings. So strings is pretty much sentences or full words instead of just char, which is only one single alphabetical word. So we'll call a string sentence or word. Call it word. And we'll give the word hello. And let's test that. And I made another typo. It's supposed to be string, not strings. All right. So these are the data structures I've shown you, and these are all single data structures. Now, let's say we can also create a bigger data structure which holds multiple values such as ints, chars, and strings. And I'm gonna try to implement the idea and show you guys how you can make another program with it. So like my first presentations, I talked about how coding is kind of like cooking eggs. So I want to implement that idea and bring it into this program and put everything together. Alright, so now that we have this going, I'm going to delete this. So let's say we want to create a person, or let's say we want to create a chef. So a chef, we'll give him a name, we'll give him his age, and since we're cooking eggs, I want to put the duration of how long he cooked his eggs for. So to do that, we'll call it a struct with the word struct, curly braces, and we'll just start. Let's say you want to give his name. So name is the string, right? The string, and we'll call the string name. Okay, and then integer for his age, and int for his cook time. One letter. Okay. But let's say integer only works for numbers. But let's say you have decimal numbers. You're gonna you can also use that with float. Okay. And after this, we'll give them some names. So let's call it chef 1 and chef 2. Let's run it, see if there's any errors. So no errors. Perfect. Right, so now let's start filling in our chefs. So to do this, you notice how we call one person chef 1 and one person chef 2. So let's work on chef 1. Chef 1, if you press dot, you'll get the word name. And we'll name our chef Gordon. And let's give him his age as well. Gordon Ramsay is actually 54. Okay. And cook time. So he likes to cook his eggs for 1.2 minutes. Now let's work on chef 2. Let's call our chef 2 Wolfgang. Wolfgang is actually 71, and let's see, his cook time is 2. Okay, so let's run this and see if there's any errors. So no errors, and let's see some couts. See where chef name is. Oops. And our output shows it. We have Gordon and Wolfgang. Alright, so once you have that set, now let's create a little function where we'll kind of simulate a pan on the stove and how long we're cooking the eggs for. So a function is pretty much a mini program inside our other program, our main program. So let's start doing that. So let's call it cook eggs. And then we're gonna need some type of input into our mini program. So I really only need the time of cook eggs for this. So we'll call it float and we'll call it time in curly braces. And then let me put the word void. Void just because this program is only do something. I don't need anything saved in the program. And then I'll be using if and else statements. So if and else statements pretty much is one of the beginner things you learn in coding, where you're going to have a statement, and if something makes this condition, it will execute it. If not, it will do something else. So let's do an if statement. I'll show you an example. Let's say if our time is less than 1.5 minutes, we'll call it, we'll see out eggs are soft to medium cooked. Semicolon. And we put a new line as well. And then else if, let's say if the time is 2.5 minutes, see out eggs are cooked well. Could be burnt if you cook this long. And then we'll put a new line as well. And then one final, let's say else, if it doesn't fit any of those, oops, see out what happened. Okay, now let's test this, see if we have any errors real quick. So no errors, perfect. Alright, so now we have our mini program going. Let's go back to our main program and put in some data. So pretty much to call our mini program, you gotta type in cook eggs, which is what we named the mini program. And let's put in, actually I want to move this right here. So let's do a chef name, cook eggs, and let's put, let's say Gordon, which is chef 1, and then period dot his cook time. And let's also do it with Wolfgang, he's chef 2, and let's see what happens. And now we have some output. So Gordon Ramsay, your eggs are soft, might be medium cooked. Wolfgang, your eggs are cooked well, could have burnt it. So this is pretty much my introduction on coding. So just to recap, I showed how to use data structures and couts. So data structures, you can hold data in the compiler, and you can use it to store data, and you can also reuse it in your mini programs. And I also talked about how functions are mini programs as well, and you can, when you code, there's also many programs within it. So thank you for your time.